The signal cut through the void like a scream in silence. Rita Flores heard it first through the static of routine communication checks. 3 days into a supply run that should have been boring, her cargo ship picked up something that didn't belong in this empty sector. The sound was strange, musical almost, but the frequency was unmistakable. Every spacer in the galaxy knew what it meant. Someone needed help. She called Owen Cross to the control room. The linguist arrived, still holding his dinner, a protein pack half-eaten. He listened to the recording 3 times before speaking. "It's not any language in our database," he said slowly. But the pattern repeats. "That's a distress call." Rita ran her hand through her short black hair. "How far?" Priya Singh didn't look up from her navigation console. Her fingers danced across the holographic display, pulling up star charts and trajectory calculations.
4 hours at full burn.
Ice moon orbiting a gas giant. "Unclaimed space. Any other ships responding?" Rita asked. Priya shook her head. "Nothing on scanners. We're alone out here." The crew gathered in the small common area of the Endeavor's wake. David Okoye leaned against the wall, arms crossed over his broad chest. The engineer always looked skeptical of anything that interrupted his careful maintenance schedules. "We're not a rescue ship," he pointed out. "We haul freight. Medical supplies and construction materials. We're the only ship," Rita countered. She looked at each face. 6 people, a small crew for a small vessel. They weren't heroes. They were workers trying to make a living in the black. But that sound, that desperate call for help, it sat wrong in her gut. Years in Earth's Navy had taught her something simple. You don't ignore a distress signal. Ever Owen worked through the night on the translation. The ship's AI helped, breaking down phonetic patterns and comparing them to known linguistic structures. By the time they approached the ice moon, he had something. "It's fragmented," he said, exhaustion making his voice rough. "But I got pieces. They're under attack. They're calling for help from what they call civilized species." "Civilized?" David raised an eyebrow. "As opposed to what?" Owen frowned at his screen. The translation algorithm flagged some words it couldn't process. References to predators, maybe? Or something about savage species? The context is unclear. The ice moon grew larger in the viewport. It was beautiful in a harsh way, white and blue against the orange glow of the gas giant behind it. Priya brought them in slowly, careful of debris. There was a lot of it. Metal fragments, some still sparking with electrical damage. Something bad had happened here. The station came into view. It was smaller than Rita expected. Maybe a research outpost or a survey base. One section was torn open, exposed to vacuum. But the central dome still had power. Lights glowed inside. Priya's scanners picked up life signs. 43 of them, clustered together in what looked like a shelter area. "They're alive," Priya said softly. "All of them, I think." Rita opened a communication channel. "Unidentified station, this is the cargo vessel Endeavor's wake. We received your distress call. We're here to help." The response was immediate and frantic. Voices overlapped, high-pitched and rapid. Owen scrambled to record it, to feed it into the translator. The AI worked slowly, pulling meaning from chaos. What came back made no sense. Fear. The word appeared again and again in the translation. Not gratitude. Not relief. Just fear. "Maybe they're scared of the attackers," David suggested. "Think we're whatever hit them?" Rita sent another message, slower this time, trying to sound calm. "We're not hostile. We're here to assist. Please respond." More voices. The translator caught fragments. Wrong. Not supposed to be. Dangerous. And then one word that came through clearly in a dozen different alien voices. Deathworlders. Owen went pale. "That's not a species name," he said. "That's a classification. I've seen it in some of the fringe xenological texts. It's a term used by spacefaring civilizations to describe species from high-gravity, high-danger planets. Like Earth," Priya said quietly. Rita felt something cold settle in her stomach. "They're afraid of us." "We haven't even met them yet," David protested. "They know what we are," Owen said, still staring at the translation scrolling across his screen. "Somehow they know humans come from a death world, and they don't want our help." The station hung in space before them, damaged and desperate. Inside were survivors who feared their rescuers more than whatever had attacked them. Rita looked at her crew. She saw the same question in their eyes. What do you do when the people you came to save don't want to be saved by you? She made the decision quickly. We dock anyway. We can't leave them to die just because they're scared. Nobody argued. The docking mechanism groaned as it connected to the damaged station. David monitored the seal carefully, watching pressure readings stabilize. "We're good," he announced. "Atmosphere on their side is breathable. Thin, but we won't need full suits." Rita checked her equipment one last time. They weren't going in armed, not exactly. But she'd been in enough situations to know that tools could become weapons if needed. She carried a portable welder. David had his engineering kit. Priya wore a medical scanner on her belt, borrowed from their small infirmary. Owen brought nothing but a data pad ready to document everything. The airlock opened with a hiss. Cold air rushed in, carrying a strange smell, sweet like flowers mixed with something mineral. Rita stepped through first, her boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. The corridor beyond was built for someone smaller than humans. The ceiling barely cleared her head. Everything was rounded, smooth, with soft blue lighting that seemed to come from the walls themselves. They found the survivors in what looked like a cafeteria. The room was large and circular, with tables that sat low to the ground. 43 beings huddled together in the center, away from the walls. They were small, maybe 4 feet tall, with pale blue skin that glistened like they were always wet. Large dark eyes dominated their faces. When they saw the humans enter, they made a sound together, a kind of musical whimper that made Rita's chest hurt. "Hello," Owen said softly. He held up his datapad, which displayed simple symbols the translator had prepared. Peace. Help. Friend. One of the aliens separated from the group. She moved on 4 limbs, graceful despite her obvious fear. When she got closer, Rita could see fine scales covering her skin and delicate gills that fluttered at her neck. The alien touched a device on her wrist and a voice emerged, speaking perfect English through a translator. "You should not have come," the alien said. Her voice was musical, layered with harmonics that made it sound like 3 people speaking at once. "The distress call was not meant for your kind." Owen knelt down, making himself smaller, less threatening. "We're here to help. Your station is damaged. We have supplies, equipment. We can evacuate you if needed." "You are from Earth," the alien said. It wasn't a question. "A Class 12 Deathworld. The database warned us about your species, predators, aggressive, violent." She paused. "Your planet kills you every day, and you survived by becoming killers yourselves." Rita felt the words like a physical blow. "We're not killers. We're cargo haulers. We heard a distress call and we came to help. That's all." The alien's large eyes blinked slowly. "I am called Mira. I am a xenobiologist. I have studied many species across the galaxy. None are like you. Your world has gravity that would crush most beings. Your atmosphere has oxygen levels that would be toxic to my people. You have predators that hunt in packs, natural disasters that destroy entire regions, and yet you build cities. You reach for the stars." Mira's gills fluttered rapidly. "You are an impossibility that exists anyway." David stepped forward. "What attacked your station?" Mira turned to look at him. Rita noticed how all the other aliens pressed closer together when David moved. "Automated defense drones," Mira said. "From the territory boundary. They malfunctioned. We could not stop them. We sent the distress call to nearby civilized worlds, worlds with peaceful species who have protocols for rescue, species who evolved in gardens, not battlefields. But nobody came," Priya said quietly. "The distance was considered too dangerous," Mira admitted. "This sector has radiation storms, navigation hazards. No civilized species would risk their crews for strangers." She looked at Rita. "But Deathworlders do not think like we do. You run toward danger, not away from it. Your instinct is wrong." Owen was typing rapidly on his datapad, absorbing everything. "How many species are there in the galaxy?" He asked. "Thousands," Mira replied. "Most from stable worlds. Wars are rare. Violence is aberrant behavior, treated as illness. We have achieved peace through evolution. And Deathworld species?" Owen pressed. 7 known species, Mira said. "All quarantined. All restricted from joining the Galactic Union. 2 attempted contact before. 1 became mercenaries, selling violence. The other expanded aggressively, taking resources. Both proved what we already knew. Deathworlders cannot be trusted." Rita felt anger rising in her chest. "So you left a distress call unanswered because you were afraid the wrong kind of rescuers might show up?" "Yes," Mira said simply. "We would rather wait for civilized help. Or die waiting." The words hung in the air. Around them, the other aliens watched with those large, dark eyes. Rita could see intelligence there and fear and something else. Sadness, maybe. They were prejudging humanity based on a database entry and fear. They couldn't see past the category to the individual standing in front of them. A loud bang echoed through the station. Everyone flinched. David checked his datapad, linked to the ship's sensors. His face went dark. More drones incoming. 6 of them. They'll be in weapons range in 3 minutes. The aliens began to panic. Their musical voices rose in a cacophony of fear. Several of them collapsed, overwhelmed. Mira stood frozen, her gills working frantically. Rita grabbed David's arm. "Can we fight them off?" "Our ship has basic defense systems," David said. "Designed to deflect small asteroids, not military drones. If they're armed like the ones that attacked before..." He didn't finish the sentence. Priya was already moving toward the exit. "I'll get the ship into position." Rita looked at Owen. "Stay with them. Keep them calm. Where are you going?" he asked. "To do what Deathworlders do," Rita said grimly. "We're going to fight." The drones came in fast and precise, mechanical insects hunting prey. Through the station windows, Rita watched them approach, their hulls reflecting the orange light of the gas giant. They were sleek things built for efficiency. She counted 6, just like David had said. Each one bristled with what looked like cutting lasers and projectile weapons. David worked frantically at a control panel he'd pried open. "Their security system is completely offline," he muttered. "These aliens never built defenses into their station. Why would they? They don't think about fighting." His hands moved quickly, rerouting power. "I can give us lights or life support in certain sections, but not both. We choose where we make our stand." Rita understood immediately. "Make a kill zone. Somewhere narrow where they have to come to us. The main corridor, section C. It connects to the cafeteria. If they want to reach the survivors, they go through us." "Do it." The first drone breached the hull on the far side of the station. Alarms blared. Rita heard screams from the cafeteria. That musical sound turned sharp with terror. Owen's voice came through her communication device, trying to calm them. But fear was spreading like fire. These aliens had never evolved to handle threats. They froze or fled, but they didn't fight. Humans fought. Rita ran to the supply crates they'd brought from the ship. Mining charges meant for legitimate excavation work on colony worlds. David had already shown her how to modify them. Remove the timer, add a pressure trigger, and suddenly you had something that resembled an improvised mine. It wasn't elegant, but elegant wasn't the goal. Stopping the drones was she placed 3 charges in the corridor, spacing them carefully. The floor was smooth metal, not ideal for hiding explosives, but the drones wouldn't be looking for traps. Why would they? They were programmed to destroy a research station full of scientists who didn't fight back. They weren't programmed for humans. Priya's voice crackled through the comm. "I've got the ship positioned to block their approach from the east side. That funnels them toward you. 2 are already inside the station. The other 4 are trying to cut through the docking bay. Let them come," Rita said. She picked up a welding torch, feeling its weight. Not a weapon, her mind insisted. Just a tool. But her hands knew better. Her hands remembered training. Earth's Navy had taught her many things, and one of them was that anything could be a weapon if you were desperate enough. The first drone rounded the corner. It moved on multiple legs, skittering across the walls and ceiling with unnerving speed. Its sensors glowed red as it scanned the corridor. Rita pressed herself flat against a doorway, holding her breath. The drone passed her position, heading for the cafeteria entrance. It crossed over the first mining charge. The explosion was deafening in the enclosed space. Fire and shrapnel tore through the drone's undercarriage. It crashed to the floor, legs twitching, sparking. Not destroyed, but damaged. Rita ran forward and drove the welding torch into its sensor cluster. Heat and light erupted. The drone went still. Her ears rang. Smoke filled the corridor. Through the haze, she saw the second drone. It had learned from the first, staying high on the walls, avoiding the floor. Smart programming. It raised its weapons toward her. David hit it from behind with a burst of superheated coolant from the station's environmental system. The drone's joints froze instantly. It fell like a stone. He was there with a pry bar before it could recover, jamming the tool into its core and twisting until something vital broke. 4 more. He panted. They heard them before they saw them, metal scraping on metal. A chittering sound that might have been machine language or just the noise of their movement. The remaining drones were coordinating, learning. They came together, a pack attack that should have been impossible for automated machines. Rita triggered the second mining charge remotely. The explosion caught 2 drones, shredding them into components. But the other 2 made it through. They split up, one going high, one going low. Classic pincer movement. Whoever programmed these things had understood tactics. Priya appeared from a side corridor. She carried what looked like a fire suppression canister. She aimed it at the higher drone and released a blast of chemical foam. The drone's sensors went blind instantly. It fired wildly, lasers cutting through walls. Priya dropped and rolled, came up with a piece of broken pipe and swung it like a club into the drone's center of mass. The impact sent it crashing down. The last drone hesitated. Rita could almost see it processing the situation. Its targets were supposed to be helpless. They weren't supposed to fight back with improvised weapons and coordinated tactics. They weren't supposed to win, it turned to flee. David threw his pry bar like a spear. It wasn't a perfect throw, but it didn't need to be. The bar hit the drone's propulsion unit. The machine wobbled, lost altitude. Rita was on it in seconds, welding torch blazing. She cut through its armor plate and exposed the circuitry inside. One more focused blast of heat and the drone died. Silence fell over the corridor. Smoke drifted. Sparks rained from damaged ceiling panels. Rita's heart hammered in her chest. Her hands shook with adrenaline. Next to her, David leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Priya checked herself for injuries, found none, and laughed. It was a slightly manic sound they'd won. 3 cargo haulers with improvised weapons against 6 military drones. Owen's voice came through the comm, shaking. "Rita, David, are you alive?" "We're fine," Rita said. "The drones are down. Is everyone in the cafeteria safe?" "Yes, but Rita, you need to come here now." Something in his tone made her move. They returned to the cafeteria quickly. The aliens were all pressed against the far wall now, as far from the entrance as possible. Mira stood at the front, her gills working rapidly. When she saw Rita covered in soot and chemical residue, holding a welding torch that still glowed faintly, her large eyes went even wider. "You destroyed them," Mira said. "All of them. In minutes." "That's what you called us for," Rita said. "To help." "No," Mira corrected. "We called for rescue. For evacuation. We did not call for warriors." Owen stepped forward. They watched it all on the security cameras. The ones still working. They saw everything. Rita looked at the huddled aliens. She saw their fear. But now she saw something else too. Awe. Horror. Fascination. They were looking at humans the way someone might look at a natural disaster. Powerful. Unstoppable. Terrifying. "We're not warriors," Rita said tiredly. "We're just people trying to survive." Mira's translation device spoke, but her natural voice came through too, layered and strange. "That is what makes you dangerous. You think survival requires violence. You think helping requires destroying. You cannot imagine peace because your world never gave you any." Rita had no answer for that. Maybe Mira was right. Maybe humans were too broken by Earth to ever fit in with civilized species. Or maybe civilized was the wrong word for beings who would rather die than let Deathworlders save them. Either way, 43 aliens were alive because 3 humans had run toward danger instead of away from it. Sleep didn't come easy that night. Rita spent hours in the damaged station, helping David patch the worst of the hull breaches while Priya ran diagnostics on the life support systems. The aliens watched from a distance, never coming close, never offering to help. They simply observed as if humans were dangerous animals that might turn violent at any moment. Owen found Rita in one of the observation rooms 20 hours after the drone attack. She stood at the large window staring out at the gas giant. Its orange and red clouds swirled in endless storms. Beautiful and deadly, like Earth in a way. "Mira wants to talk," Owen said. "Actually talk. Not just translation protocols." Rita turned. "About what?" "About us. About Earth. About why the galaxy is afraid of humans." Owen sat down on a bench that was too small for him, designed for the smaller alien frames. "I think she's curious. Scared, but curious." They met in what Mira called the Learning Center. It was a room full of strange equipment, holographic displays and storage devices containing vast amounts of data. Mira waited there alone without the safety of her group. That took courage, Rita realized. These aliens might be physically weak, but they weren't cowards. "I have been reading about Earth," Mira began without preamble. Her gills fluttered slowly, a sign of nervousness Owen had learned to recognize. Your world is classified as a Class 12 Deathworld. Only 3 other known planets rate that high. Most species evolved on worlds rated Class 1 through 3. What makes Earth so dangerous? Rita asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. Mira activated a holographic display. An image of Earth appeared, blue and green and white. Gravity 0.98 standard units. Most species require 0.3 to 0.5. Your bones grew dense to support weight. Your muscles developed strength. Simple movement for you would exhaust most beings. The image shifted, showing Earth's atmosphere. Oxygen content 21%. Toxic to most species. We breathe oxygen too, but only at 7%. Your air would kill us. You evolved to process what is essentially poison. Another shift. Weather patterns across Earth. Temperature variations of 50 degrees between seasons in many regions. Storms with winds exceeding 200 units per hour. Earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis. Your planet tried to kill you constantly. Rita watched the display. She'd never thought of Earth that way before. It was just home, normal. But seeing it through alien eyes, she understood. Earth was a nightmare world. And the predators, Mira continued. Her voice grew quieter. Your world had creatures that hunted in packs. That set ambushes. That pursued prey for days without stopping. And you, humans, you hunted them back. You became the apex predator by learning to be more dangerous than anything else on your world. That was thousands of years ago. Owen interjected. Humans have evolved beyond that. We have civilization, culture, art, and science and philosophy. Yes, Mira agreed. But the foundation remains. I watched you fight the drones. You moved with coordination without speaking. You improvised weapons from tools in seconds. You predicted the machine's tactics and countered them. That is not learned behavior. That is instinct refined over millions of years of survival. David had joined them, drawn by curiosity. So what? He challenged. We're good at surviving. How does that make us monsters? Mira's large eyes blinked slowly. You are not monsters. That is not the word. You are efficient, relentless. When you commit to something, you do not stop. 2 other Deathworld species made contact with the Galactic Union before humans discovered faster-than-light travel. What happened to them? Rita asked. The first called themselves the Roth. They came from a high-gravity world with extreme weather. Strong, fast, durable. They offered to help with a pirate problem in the outer sectors. Mira's gills fluttered rapidly. They solved the pirate problem by hunting down every single pirate vessel across 50 systems. Then they kept hunting. They liked it. They became mercenaries, selling violence to the highest bidder. Wars that had been avoided for centuries suddenly became possible. Many beings died. The Union had to quarantine their entire home system. Owen leaned forward. And the second species? The Krell, from a world of scarce resources. They learned to fight over every scrap of food, every drop of water. When they reached the stars, they saw all the resources of the galaxy, and they wanted them. Mira brought up images of insectoid creatures, heavily armored. They did not conquer through war. They conquered through trade. They worked harder, longer, cheaper than anyone else. They undercut every market. They expanded so aggressively that entire economic systems collapsed. The Union had to restrict their travel to prevent complete destabilization. So because 2 species couldn't integrate, all Deathworld species get punished. Rita felt anger building in her chest. We get judged before we even have a chance? Yes, Mira said simply. The risk is too great. The Galactic Union represents thousands of species living in peace. One aggressive species could destroy everything. Better to quarantine than to risk it. That's not fair, Priya said. She'd arrived quietly, drawn like the others to this conversation that would define humanity's future among the stars. No, Mira agreed. It is not fair, it is safe. Fairness is a luxury of those who can afford risk. She paused. Your distress call asked for civilized species because civilization to us means peaceful. It means species that talk before they fight, that negotiate before they attack. We could not imagine beings who are both civilized and dangerous. Owen spoke carefully. But we are both. Humans learn to channel aggression into protection. We fight to defend, not to conquer. Perhaps, Mira said, but how can we know? How can we trust that humans will not follow the path of the Roth or the Krell? Your own history is filled with wars. You fought each other for thousands of years. Only recently, by galactic standards, did you achieve global peace. Rita had no answer for that. Human history was indeed violent. Wars over resources, territory, ideology. Millions dead in conflicts that seemed pointless in retrospect. Only in the last century had Earth unified, had nations learned to cooperate instead of compete. But was that enough? Could humans prove they were different from the other Deathworld species? You came when no one else would, Mira said softly. That means something. But it also confirms our fears. You ran toward danger. You fought without hesitation. You killed machines efficiently and without remorse. Yes, you saved us. But you also showed us exactly what we fear about Deathworlders. You are too comfortable with violence. The words stung because they held truth. Rita thought about the fight in the corridor. She hadn't hesitated. Hadn't questioned. She'd simply acted, using training and instinct to destroy the threat. Was that wrong? Was saving lives through violence still violence? What happens now? Owen asked. You'll report this contact to the Union? Yes, Mira confirmed, I must. Unauthorized contact with a quarantine species. It will likely result in stricter controls on human expansion. Even though we saved you? David's voice was hard. Even though, Mira said, I am grateful. We are all grateful. But gratitude does not change the danger you represent. Rita stood. She felt tired suddenly, exhausted beyond the physical. We should leave then. Get out of your way. Wait, Mira said. She moved closer, though her whole body tensed with fear. I want to ask you something. Why did you come? You knew we were afraid of you. You could have ignored the distress call. Let someone else respond. Why risk yourselves for strangers who don't want your help? Rita thought about it. About Earth and its endless disasters. About how humans learned early that you help because someday you might need help. About how survival was a group effort. Because it's the right thing to do, she said finally. Because leaving people to die when you can save them is worse than being feared for saving them. Mira stared at her for a long moment. That is very human, she said at last. And very dangerous. The Union fleet arrived without warning on the third day. 12 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system, their hulls gleaming silver against the black. They were beautiful vessels, elegant in a way that human ships never were. Human engineering prioritized function and survival. These ships looked like works of art. Priya picked them up on sensors first. We have company. Big company. Military configurations, but not designed for heavy combat. Looks like patrol and containment vessels. Rita felt her stomach drop. Mira must have sent her report. They came fast, David observed. He studied the scans carefully. Those ships are quick. Probably meant for rapid response situations. Owen pulled up communication channels. They're broadcasting on multiple frequencies. Standard greetings in 70 different languages. Very polite. Very official, he paused. Very firm. They want us to power down our weapons and prepare for boarding. We don't have weapons, Priya pointed out. Just the mining charges we already used. They don't know that, Rita said. She opened a channel. Unidentified fleet. This is the cargo vessel Endeavor's wake. We are unarmed and mean no harm. We responded to a distress call from the research station. We are preparing to depart. The response came in perfect English, though the voice behind it was distinctly non-human. It had a chirping quality like birdsong mixed with clicks. Captain Flores, I am Commander Tellin of the Galactic Union Rapid Response Fleet. We are aware of your presence. We are here to address the unauthorized contact situation and ensure the safety of Union citizens. Unauthorized contact. Rita bristled at the phrase. We saved those citizens. The station was under attack. We understand the circumstances, Commander Tellin replied. Nevertheless, protocols exist for contact between quarantined species and Union members. These protocols were violated. You will remain in position while we conduct our investigation. Rita looked at her crew. They were tired. They'd spent 3 days helping repair the station, sharing supplies, trying to build bridges despite the fear. And now they were being treated like criminals. What if we refuse? She asked quietly. David shook his head. 12 ships. Even if they're not built for combat, they have numbers. And we're a cargo hauler. We'd last maybe 30 seconds in a fight. Owen was reading through files on his datapad, information Mira had shared about Union protocols. If they determine we're a threat, they can detain us indefinitely. Quarantine procedures allow for containment without trial for Deathworld species. It's buried in subsection 19 of the contact regulations. That's insane, Priya said. That's fear, Owen corrected. They're so afraid of what we might do that they've written laws to control us before we even act. The fleet moved into position around the station. They maintained a careful distance, never coming close enough to be threatened, but surrounding the human ship completely, professional, efficient, trapping prey without aggression, a shuttle detached from the lead vessel. Commander Tellin himself was coming to meet them face to face. Rita considered that brave. Or maybe it was a show of confidence proving that humans weren't as dangerous as the databases claimed. The commander was bird-like, with feathers that shimmered blue and green in certain light. He stood upright on two legs with arms that ended in delicate manipulator appendages. His eyes were large and golden. He wore what looked like a uniform, simple and functional. He brought two others with him, smaller beings that might have been from the same species or different ones. Rita found it hard to tell. Captain Flores, Commander Tellin said formally, "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. Did I have a choice?" Rita asked. "No," Tellin admitted. "But courtesy costs nothing." He gestured to the station. "May we discuss the situation there? With the survivors present?" They gathered in the cafeteria again. The rescued aliens crowded at one end, the humans at the other, with Commander Tellin and his officers in between. It felt like a trial, though no one had said those words. Mira spoke first, her translator rendering her musical voice into flat English. "I sent the report as required. I documented the distress call, the drone attack, and the human response. I noted that humans violated quarantine protocols but also saved all 43 crew members." "And your recommendation?" Commander Tellin asked. Mira's gills fluttered. "I have no recommendation. I'm a scientist, not a policymaker. I report facts." Tellin turned to Rita. "From your perspective, Captain, why did you respond to a distress call that specifically requested you stay away?" "We didn't know it said that," Rita answered. "Our translator couldn't get the full message. We heard a distress call and we responded. That's what spacers do." "Human spacers," Tellin corrected gently. "Most species would have analyzed the situation, contacted appropriate authorities, and waited for proper rescue vessels. By which time everyone here would be dead," David said bluntly. "Perhaps," Tellin acknowledged. "Or perhaps another Union ship would have arrived. We have protocols for situations like this. Protocols that take too long," Priya added. "We were the only ship in range." 4 hours away. You're at least 2 days distant, probably more." Tellin didn't argue. He turned back to Mira. "Were you threatened by the human presence?" "Yes," Mira said. The word hung in the air. "But not in the way you mean. They never raised weapons against us. Never threatened violence toward any crew member. But their capacity for violence was clear. The ease with which they destroyed the drones was frightening. Did they have a choice?" Tellin pressed. "Could they have resolved the situation without violence?" Mira was quiet for a long moment. Her large eyes moved from human to human. "No," she finally said. "The drones were programmed to destroy. Negotiation was impossible. Violence was the only option? And yet this concerns you?" Tellin asked. "Yes, because they did not hesitate, did not question. They saw threat and responded with immediate, efficient destruction. That is what Deathworlders do. That is what makes them dangerous." Commander Tellin walked to the window. He looked out at the stars, at the ice moon and the swirling gas giant beyond. "I have studied Earth," he said quietly. "It is indeed a terrible place. Your evolution was shaped by constant danger. But I have also studied human culture. Your art, your music, your literature. You are not simple killers. You are complex beings capable of both great violence and great compassion." He turned back. "The question is not whether you are dangerous. You clearly are. The question is whether that danger can coexist with civilization. 2 species before us failed that test," Owen said. "The Roth and the Krell. They became exactly what the Union feared." "Yes," Tellin agreed. "And so the Union quarantined all Deathworld species. A blanket policy based on limited data. Perhaps wise. Perhaps prejudiced. I am not certain." His golden eyes fixed on Rita. "But I know this. You came when called. You fought when necessary. And then you stayed to help with repairs. You could have left immediately. Avoided this confrontation. Why didn't you?" Rita thought about it. "Because leaving felt wrong. They needed help. We had supplies and skills. Why wouldn't we stay?" "Because staying risked exactly this situation," Tellin pointed out. "You knew Mira would report the contact. You knew there would be consequences. Yet you stayed anyway." "Yes." A sound came from the commander's throat, a chirping trill that might have been laughter. You ran toward danger again. Even bureaucratic danger. You cannot help yourselves. Rita felt defensive. Is that bad? Helping people? I don't know, Tellin said honestly. But I know this. My fleet will report that humans responded to a distress call with courage and skill, that you saved Union citizens without asking for payment or recognition, that you faced automated weapons designed to kill and you won. All of these things will go into the report. And then what? Rita asked. And then the Union will debate, Tellin said. Some will argue for stricter quarantine. Some will argue for limited contact. Some might even argue for eventual membership, though that would take decades. But the debate will happen. That is more than humans had yesterday. He prepared to leave, his shuttle waiting. At the airlock, he paused. Captain Flores, one more question. If another distress call comes tomorrow, one that specifically says Deathworlders should not respond, will you ignore it? Rita met his golden eyes. She knew the right answer, the smart answer. She should say yes. She would follow protocols, stay away from situations that might escalate tensions. But that would be a lie. No, she said. I wouldn't ignore it. If someone needs help, I help. That's not negotiable. Commander Tellin made that chirping trill again. Then we will meet again, Captain. I suspect many times. He left, his shuttle departing for his flagship. The Union fleet remained in position. 2 hours after Commander Tellin returned to his ship, every sensor on the Endeavor's wake began screaming warnings. Priya's hands flew across her console, trying to make sense of the data flooding in. Something's wrong with one of the Union vessels. The third ship in their formation. Power readings are spiking. David pulled up the engineering data. His face went pale. That's a reactor cascade. Someone designed that ship poorly, or it took damage we didn't detect. Either way, it's going critical. Rita opened communications immediately. Commander Tellin, this is Captain Flores. We're reading a reactor problem on your third ship. You need to evacuate now. The response came quickly, but tinged with confusion. We're aware of the malfunction, Captain. Our engineering teams are working to contain it. There's no need for alarm. There's every need for alarm, David cut in, overriding Rita's channel. That reactor is going to breach in less than 12 minutes. You have maybe 8 minutes to get your crew off that ship before it becomes a bomb. A pause. Then Tellin's voice returned, tighter now. We're attempting evacuation. Our lifeboats are experiencing mechanical failures. They were damaged by the radiation storms in this sector during our approach. We didn't consider it urgent to repair them immediately. Rita looked at her crew. She saw the same understanding in their eyes. The Union fleet had come prepared to enforce quarantine, not to rescue their own people. They'd assumed safety. They'd assumed protocols would protect them. They'd assumed wrong. How many crew on that ship? Rita asked. 38, Tellin said. We have managed to get 12 off. The remaining 26 are trapped. The high gravity from the cascade field is preventing normal movement. My species cannot function in such conditions, high gravity. Rita felt a cold certainty settle over her. Of course they couldn't function. Most species evolved in gentle conditions. The crushing force of an increasing gravity field would paralyze them, but not humans. We can get them, Rita said. Captain Flores, you don't understand the danger. I understand perfectly, Rita interrupted. Your crew is trapped on a ship that's about to explode because they're too weak to move in high gravity. We're from a high-gravity world. We can move. We can carry them. Let us help. Silence on the channel. Rita could imagine the calculations happening on the Union flagship. Risk versus reward. Accepting help from Deathworlders versus letting crew members die. Protocol versus survival. Why would you do this? Tellin asked finally. We came here to contain you. To potentially detain you. Why risk yourselves for us? Because that's what humans do, Rita said simply. We help even when it's dangerous. Even when it makes no sense. Especially then, another pause, shorter this time. You have 7 minutes. Please hurry. The Endeavor's wake burned hard toward the failing Union vessel. Priya pushed their engines beyond safety ratings, using every trick she knew to squeeze more speed from the old cargo hauler. They closed the distance in 2 minutes, precious seconds ticking away. Rita, David, and Owen suited up in their emergency gear. Not combat armor, just environmental suits designed for hull breaches and radiation exposure. They carried rescue slings, medical supplies, anything that might help move injured crew. The docking was rough. The Union ship's automated systems were failing, and they had to manually force the airlock connection. David worked the mechanism by hand, muscles straining against resistance that would have stopped most species cold. Inside was chaos. The gravity field fluctuated wildly, surging from normal to 3 times standard and back again. The Union crew were scattered throughout the corridors, unable to stand, some unconscious from the strain. They were small beings, fragile, their bodies not designed for this punishment. Rita found the first group of 5 clustered in what looked like an engine room. They'd been trying to fix the reactor when the cascade began. She knelt beside them, feeling the gravity press down like a physical weight. Heavy but manageable. Earth gravity was worse. "I'm here to help," she said. Her suit translator rendered the words into multiple languages simultaneously. "I'm going to carry you out." The nearest alien, one of Tellen's species with blue-green feathers, stared at her with golden eyes full of pain and fear. "You came," they whispered. "Even after everything." "Of course we came," Rita said. She lifted the alien carefully. They weighed almost nothing, even in the increased gravity. Bird-like hollow bones, she thought. Built for flight, not fighting. She placed them in the rescue sling and activated the emergency beacon. "Stay here. Someone will guide you to our ship." She found 6 more crew members in the next corridor. David was already there, carrying 2 at once, his strength making it look easy. Owen moved through a side passage, calling out in multiple languages, searching for survivors. The gravity surged again. Rita felt her knees buckle, 3.5 times Earth normal. For a moment she couldn't move. Her vision darkened at the edges. Then training kicked in, breathe, focus, push through. She forced herself forward, step by agonizing step, pulling an injured crew member behind her. 4 minutes left. They found the last group trapped in crew quarters. 11 beings, some unconscious, some crying in that musical way the aliens had. The gravity here was worst, pinning everyone to the floor. Rita crawled in on her hands and knees, feeling like she was moving through mud. "Oxygen deprivation," Owen called out. "The gravity is compressing their chests. They can't breathe properly." They worked frantically, pulling crew members out one by one. Rita's muscles screamed. Sweat poured down her face inside her helmet. This was harder than fighting drones. Harder than anything she'd done in years. But she didn't stop. Couldn't stop. 2 minutes. David carried the last 3 crew members together, staggering under the combined weight and enhanced gravity. Rita and Owen supported each other, barely able to walk. They made it to the airlock just as Priya's voice crackled through the comm. "You need to leave now, that reactor is going." They tumbled through the airlock. Priya didn't wait for confirmation. Just fired the separation bolts and burned away from the dying ship. The Endeavor's wake pushed its engines to the breaking point, putting distance between them and the Cascade reactor. The Union ship exploded 30 seconds later. A brief sun in the darkness, beautiful and terrible, then nothing but expanding debris and radiation. Rita collapsed on the deck of her ship, every muscle trembling. Around her, 26 rescued Union crew members lay in various states of consciousness. David leaned against a wall, chest heaving. Owen had already passed out from exhaustion. Commander Tellen's voice came through the ship's speakers, thick with emotion. "You saved them. All of them. You risked your lives for my crew after we came to contain you." Rita couldn't find the energy to respond properly. She just keyed the microphone. "You're welcome." The Union fleet escorted them to the nearest station, not as prisoners, as guests. The report would show that humans had saved Union lives twice in 3 days, that they'd run toward danger without hesitation, that they'd proven compassion could coexist with capability. 3 weeks later, back at their home port, Rita received a message. It was from Commander Tellen. The Galactic Union had voted to begin preliminary diplomatic talks with Earth. Limited contact. Restricted trade. But contact nonetheless. The first time in galactic history that a Deathworld species had been granted such an opportunity. The message included a personal note from Tellen. "You asked me once why we feared Deathworlders. I have a new answer now. We fear you because you are everything we are not. Strong where we are weak, brave where we are cautious, willing to sacrifice where we would calculate risk. That is terrifying to species who built civilization on safety and protocol. But perhaps that is also what we need. Perhaps the galaxy needs someone who runs toward danger when everyone else runs away. Perhaps we need Deathworlders more than we want to admit." Rita read the message 3 times. Then she filed it away and returned to checking the cargo manifest for their next supply run. In 2 days, they'd be hauling medical equipment to the outer colonies. Routine work. Safe work, unless another distress call came through. Then all bets were off because she was human. From Earth. A death world that had spent millions of years teaching its inhabitants one simple lesson. Survival means fighting, and fighting means sometimes you fight for others, not just yourself. That was humanity's curse and gift wrapped together. They couldn't help being helpers, even when it was dangerous, even when it was foolish, even when the galaxy itself said they should stay away. The SOS wasn't meant for humans. But humans answered anyway. And maybe, just maybe, that was exactly what the galaxy needed to hear.